Hello, welcome. This is different for me. I don't usually make videos and I don't usually tell stories to people that I don't know very well. But I figured that this would be something that you were interested in. And here you are, so hello. What this video is going to be is how I, as a woman with a visual impairment, figured out that I was pregnant. So let's get into it. So after getting married, I learned very quickly how to take pregnancy tests. Not too hard, especially if they're the kind that, you dip the little tester tip of the test into a cup of urine and swish it around for a few seconds, take it out, put the cap back on, and lay it flat on the counter with the little indented screen part facing up. And then usually I set a timer with Alexa or my phone. And so, yeah, and then when the result comes up, most of the time my husband has been around to look at them. But if he's not, I usually take a picture with my phone and zoom it in because I have enough vision that if I have the right kind of lighting and contrast and magnification, I can still make out some details, especially if the line of the positive result is very clear and bold, much like the one that I received about a week ago. But so yeah, so I've been well versed in the art of pregnancy test taking. I still am not that proficient in like the dollar store ones with the little the dropper and the thing, but I tend to stay away from those anyway because I find the other ones more accessible and more easy to use. That aside, these are some of the things that I felt physically before I even had gotten the positive test. So the first one was around the time that I was supposed to be like ovulating or being close to getting my period. I was getting some kind of like vaginal discharge, but it wasn't the same as you get when you are ovulating. It was a little more liquidy. I cannot really see colors that well. I can see colors if they're very bright and bold, and if they're very saturated, and they have to be within like that mid-range of shade, so they can't be too light of a shade and they can't be too dark of a shade, or they start mixing. And even still, sometimes I mix up orange and pink, or green and blue, or even like purple and like a forest green, or purple and brown. Anyway, that's besides the point of my story here. I cannot tell the color of stuff that happens when you're ovulating. Usually, like, if it's supposed to be like white or clear, I can't really tell. When I have my period, I can see, if there's something dark on the liner or the pad, or if it's starting to lighten up. That's kind of when I know that my period is ending, or what kind of pads to use, that kind of stuff. There's other ways too. You can definitely feel what's going on down there. And you can also sometimes, smell, because it's blood and it smells differently than other things. Not trying to be gross, I'm just trying to be, scientifically accurate here with observations. But anyway, so I was getting this kind of discharge, but I was like, oh, maybe I'm just like ovulating, or maybe my body's just like trying to have a period because I missed one already, but I think it was just because of stress. So I didn't really pay too much attention to that. And then one day I had a little bit of spotting, which I thought maybe was just ovulation bleeding, which has happened to me a few times. Not every time, but sometimes I see it happen, and I read about it and realize that it's sometimes normal for some people. So I did see that, and I chalked it up to ovulation bleeding. Then another thing that was going on was that my breasts were starting to swell a little bit, feel a little tender, a little sore, kind of like they do sometimes when you're going to get your period. So then I was like, okay, thank you, finally I'm going to have my period, and we can move on with life. And then I was just feeling very hungry all the time. Sometimes it would go away, and sometimes I would just be so hungry, which sometimes also happens when I am going to get my period or when I'm on my period. I also tend to be slightly anemic when I'm on my period, so my body just like is telling me that I need more iron or I need more nutrients and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, my period is definitely coming because I'm getting all these symptoms and things. I then also started to feel like cramping in my lower abdomen area, especially around the reproductive organs. So I was like, okay, like either this is really bad gas because I've been very hungry recently and all that kind of stuff, or my period is coming. So I anticipated it, and I anticipated it. Since the last period that I missed, I had taken 3 pregnancy tests that had all come back negative. I took them 1 week after my missed period, 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks, and they were all 3 negative. Coming up on the 4th week now, when all these things are kind of happening, I'm also feeling very tired, and thinking, oh, my husband's been sick, and I've been, worrying and waking up in the middle of the night a lot. I've just been tired because of that. And then, let's see, what else? No, I think that was a lot of the symptoms. So after all of this is happening, we're coming up on the 4th week after my missed period, which is technically when my next period would have come, if it was indeed going to come. And my husband tells me to take another test. So I was a little hesitant. I had been getting negative results. I didn't want to waste another test for another negative result. But my period hadn't come yet on that day, and so I decided to take the test. Usually, like I said, my husband is there and looks at the result and tells me. And it usually takes him a few seconds to tell me because he makes sure that there's no like faint lines or that the results have completely come in. And then he says, okay, it looks like you're not pregnant, usually. Or that's what has been happening up until this point right now. So he looks at the test and he turns around and tells me, so you may be pregnant. And I was just in shock and surprise and disbelief and excited and all that kind of stuff. And so now here we are 1 week later from that test. Still feeling some of the symptoms, still feeling kind of tired, not as tired as I was feeling last week. definitely very dehydrated. If you can't tell, my throat is already kind of dry and I should have been drinking water at this point, but I want to tell you guys everything first. My breasts are still kind of sore. I don't have as much cramping down there, but I can definitely feel the size of my uterus has changed. And the way I do that is I put a little pressure to find my pelvic bone, and then I do that with my pointer finger or my middle finger, and then I use my thumb and or my pointer finger if I'm using my middle finger to find the pelvic bone and put a little bit of pressure and start moving up from there and see where I can feel that my uterus kind of like drops off. And measuring the span of that distance in centimeters is supposed to tell you how many weeks along you are. I haven't taken a measuring tape to it yet, but I am pretty sure that we are about 9 weeks, so that's something exciting. Another thing that you can do is to check out how your cervix feels using your longest finger. You kind of reach up in there and feel around for it. If it is kind of shifted up and away, that is a sign of pregnancy. Otherwise, it's usually pretty low, and when you're going to get your period, it hardens a little bit. But when you're pregnant, it's soft and it is pushed up. So that's another thing that I've been able to detect. My skin also feels different. I haven't gotten any kind of like acne or anything like that. I'm very lucky and didn't really have too much trouble with that. Not until we had to start wearing masks, because then that was making my face break out so much. But yeah, a lot of things do feel different. My joints and ligaments, like just, the things that connect my body together feel kind of loose. And let's see, I haven't had too much morning sickness yet, knock on wood, because I always thought that I would be somebody who would have it really bad. But mostly I just have to keep eating snacks and things throughout the day, drinking a lot of water, and that seems to help keep my stomach balanced. I also bought these little lozenges called Preggy Drop Pops, or Preggy Pop Drops. I can't remember the order of the words, but they come with vitamin B6, which is supposed to help with nausea, and with other ingredients that help with that nauseous feeling in between meals, or even if now driving in the car. With my visual impairment, I have nystagmus, which means my eyes kind of dart back and forth a little bit. It's hard for me to focus straight on one fixed point for a long time. That comes with its own side effects, if you will. Like when we're driving, I'm already feeling like I'm constantly moving, and then the car is moving, and things look closer to me than they usually are, because I also don't have depth perception. So I've always been prone to being a little car sick, especially like when I haven't eaten in a while. But now I feel it a little bit more. Sometimes if I'm getting off of work and haven't had a snack in about half an hour or something, and then another half hour of driving home kind of makes me feel a little bit so that's when I use those. But usually I've been good about that. I have my first doctor's appointment in a week, so at that point we'll get to see the ultrasound and hear more about the development and everything. See if maybe the reason I had 3 negative tests and 1 positive is because we have twins. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. And I am definitely gonna do that again. I am definitely looking forward to sharing everything with you and hearing from you about your stories and about what you think of my symptoms and all that kind of stuff. I am looking forward to all of it. So thank you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!